I saw people doing rope and I was like, oh, I love to like challenge people and I love it when people suffer. I found your button and I'm going to push that button over and over to get a reaction out of you. I don't know. It's weird. It's just a personal preference.
Thank you for coming on, doll.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to another episode of Uncensored. Today we have KissMeDeadlyDoll in the house. KissMeDeadlyDoll is a New York City-based rope bondage professional, and after discovering her love of rope as a model, she quickly began recreating and practicing ties of her own, thus starting her foray into obsessive amounts of bondage and suspension, and she is so good at it. She is self-taught, primarily through trial and error, followed by many workshops and private lessons in the US, Europe, and Tokyo. 11 years later, she is sharing her love of tying others as a creator, provider, performer, and educator, helping others explore their interests in bondage in a, quote, safer way. Doll is also a published photographer and videographer with a pro studio set up to accommodate creating your dreamiest fantasy. Themes can range from fetish fashion, light boudoir, to more explicit adult content creation. And of course, she has a deep love for creating imagery around bondage, latex fashion, and BDSM themes in general. Thank you for coming on, Doll.
Thank you for having me.
So Doll and I met, I think like 2 years ago at this point.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, I was doing this really fun like rope kidnapping video with our mutual friend Novi.
Yes.
And I don't do any rope. I cannot for the life of me just like wrap my mind around the logistics of it. So I hired Doll to help out with like the leg bondage and getting Lily into a chair. And we reenacted this really fun scene where it's like a breakup video between me and her, and then like I kidnap her to like make her love me again. And that was really, really fun.
Yeah, that was a super hot video.
That was a really hot video. Yeah. It was too hot though. It got taken down by a lot of major platforms, but it is around and I will email it to you if you want it. It's so good.
Yeah.
I would love to know sort of like your origin story and how you began.
Yeah.
When was the moment you realized like out of everything in BDSM kink, like rope was the thing for you?
I think I always had a love, or like not necessarily a love, but like a craving for bondage. Like I just loved the way any type of bondage feels. And then when I started exploring the kink scene more in depth in New York, I started going to kink parties and I saw people doing rope and I was like, oh, you know, sometimes you just see something and it like speaks to you and you're like, that's what I want. I want to be in that rope. At that time, though, I didn't really have, I was playing with a couple that were more latex fetishists. So that's kind of where I got into like the dollification and like my love of latex comes from. But I didn't really ever have a partner that did rope bondage or knew a lot about rope bondage. Therefore, I was like, you know what? I can just figure this out myself.
That's so lovely.
Yeah.
If you're able to like place into words, like what is it about rope specifically that like brings out those emotions or helps you like gravitate towards it?
I think, oh man, there's like so many aspects of it, to be honest. But like some of the big things for me is like, it's a very different type of suffering, I would say, or like as someone who is a switch, so likes both sides of masochistic tendencies, I feel like it's very different from like impact or like faster things. It's like a very slow burn, which I love. And then just the fact that it's like, it can be so many different things. Like even now when I do like sessions or I'm playing with people, I always default to rope because I'm like, oh, I have like these cuffs or these straps or these other things, but it like doesn't exactly get you in the position I want you in. It's like, well, we could just make this so much easier with rope. And then like a few minutes later, we can totally change it into something else. So I like the fact that it has like a beautiful like flow to it, I guess. And then just that it like takes time and study to really perfect, because I like to nerd out about things like that.
Yeah, it really does take a lot of time and study.
Yeah.
You said you started with like some trial and error and then did an extensive amount of training.
Yes.
What happened in the trial and error? Could you have some stories around that you're willing to share?
The trial and error was definitely, because this was like at least 11 years ago now, there wasn't as much like online education around how to tie. There was some in-person stuff, but it was like not as prevalent as it is now, I would say. And because I didn't have a partner, I just would get some rope and like figure out how to do things on myself. Therefore, the trial and error. Sometimes it worked really well and sometimes it did not. But luckily with no major accidents or anything.
Yeah. I once had a sub attempt some self-ties at home, and he like got himself in a knot he could not get out, and his safety scissors were like too far away, and he was like describing like the panic of like, oh shit, like this, like I should not have done this to myself, like alone in my house.
Yeah.
What was the training abroad like? Is there any differences between like the Tokyo scene, the European scene, and the US?
Definitely. I think once I got to a certain level, like for me to learn more, I was like, okay, I have to start like seeking out people to learn from in person. And at that time, I was traveling to Asia a few times a year for a different job I was working. So I was like, oh, this is great because I can actually learn like in Tokyo, which is where a lot of the Japanese nawashis are that I was inspired by. And it was amazing to learn over there. But I think I've learned a lot of like modifications and really important things here as well, because I think like the rope scene in the US is more chaotic with like a lot of flavors from everywhere, but there's also a lot more like learning around like safety and modifications for like different abilities and different bodies. And I think like in Japan, there's more of like a lineage, right? So it's like this person learned from this person and you're like sticking to a specific style. Or at least that's what it was like when I was learning there. I can't speak for how it is today. But I think it's been a nice mixture of both to take from the traditional aspects of learning there in like a certain lineage, and then take everything I've learned here and in Europe to kind of complement it and then like modify it for my own practice.
What was that like figuring out your own style, and what would you describe your current rope style?
Ooh, that's tough. I think about this a lot, and I'm not the best with words. But I think I'm a blend of more challenging rope. Like, of course, I love to like challenge people and I love it when people suffer. But it's also really important to me in my practice that rope can be accessible for everyone. So I do have a lot of learning around tying different bodies. And I think that it's really cool to see kind of similar things tied on a vast amount of people, because we all like deserve to have that experience if we want it, you know? Yeah, and I like shapes. I like bending people's bodies and watching them suffer through it.
You mentioned earlier like challenging rope. What exactly does that for? I'm imagining like someone who maybe never done rope before. What exactly does challenging mean?
I mean, challenging can mean a lot of things, because like for some people, like something that looks really intense in a picture might not actually be that challenging for them. Whereas if you put somebody else in that same thing, it might be really challenging. So it could be anything from like a difficult position in terms of like how you're bent or how you're stretching. It could be in terms of like your ability to breathe, the kind of compression that's on your body. Certain ties really hurt There's like, you're basically putting tourniquets all over your body and then hanging yourself from them. So it can be somewhat painful.
I feel like the aesthetics of rope is so popularized in some ways in the kink community, and it's a totally different experience being in like you're curled up in a ball and like your elbows are over your head and the like gravity working against you, or you can feel it against your bones sometimes after a certain amount of I don't know, like minutes, however long, the circulation cuts that can be quite precise. And from the outside, all you see is like, oh, there's rope on a person. But there's all of these physical sensations occurring at the same time. You also do a bit of suspensions too.
I do.
I did. I was suspended for my first time recently by someone who was practicing.
Amazing.
And it was suspensions is higher risk because of the gravity and pull. I actually have like a little bit of a rope scar from it because there was so much weight put onto like this bone specifically. And that was like a risk I was willing to take for them to like practice pulling me up and all of that. What was the process for you to learn suspensions? You did quite a bit of it, like really elaborate ones too, where they're like against the beam. The bamboo. The beamer, entirely.
I learned suspension again when I was self-tying. So I was only suspending myself. And then once I got more confident in that, I started suspending other people. But as probably most people who've tried self-suspension know that's suspending is a good aspect of that. Because that's what you want to do. Yes.
Yeah, I would love to hear a story of you being like a rope top, providing rope for one of your clients. Do you have a session story that really stands out to you that was like really satisfying for you or really satisfying for the bottom in that moment? Like walk us through like how the room felt, how the rope felt, how the time moved, the music, the light.
Oh man. That's a hard one, to be honest. Because I've had so many really cool rope things.
Always down for multiple stories too. I love a good story time.
I always find it really moving to watch someone kind of go away, or not go away, but like there's kind of for some people in rope, there's kind of a moment where you actually see someone like release the tension they're holding. Because even like when we're just sitting here, I feel like we don't always realize the kind of like tension we're holding. And it's really cool for me as a top to see someone actually release that and let go of like what they're worried about, right? Or like in rope, you're like, oh, is it gonna... It's silly because, like, of course it's going to hold you, but you're like, oh, is it going to hold me? Oh, I don't know. I'm so stiff. And to, like, see somebody kind of relax into it and be like, no, I got this. I can, like, let go of those fears and just be present in the moment. And then allowing, like, themselves to kind of open up and be vulnerable is, like, super beautiful to me. To have, like, feel that connection with someone, but they're like trusting you and they're like leaning into you to like push them further. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that is really beautiful.
Yeah.
The surrender also, like in certain positions too, like they literally are leaning on you as support. They're gonna fall over, like the like very like one for one like metaphor of what's happening is really gorgeous. You also do a lot of photography and content too. Have you always done photography, or did that come with the rope kind of side by side?
I I did photography when I was younger, like in high school. And then when I kind of lost it for a while because I had like a very busy school and all that kind of stuff. But I got back into it when I started exploring kink stuff, not necessarily rope, but just as like a way to kind of document how it was making me feel, I guess, or like how I saw myself in that context. And then I really enjoyed that as like a part of my self-exploration. And then it kind of grew from there into like, okay, now I'm doing this rope thing and I'm like documenting this process. And I think for me, it's always been more about the documenting like an experience or like someone's emotions versus like a fashion photography per se, which I like doing both, but really like capturing someone like having that moment is like the coolest thing to me because it's like a real representation, I guess, of how someone feels.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I can't believe you haven't photographed me yet. Like that's something that I want to get done. Yeah. It's kind of wild. I need to reach out to you again for some stuff too. I would love to bottom for you for one of the rope sessions too.
Ooh, that would be so fun.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic.
That.
Yeah, it's really rare to find the right person to do like the ties and also to know your body really well.
Yeah.
I'm not very flexible. You
don't have to be flexible. This is not a requirement.
Yeah, but I also like want to be like pushed, with like my inflexibility.
Yeah.
And there's so many fun ways to go about that.
For sure.
Are there any rope artists that you really look up to at this moment that you want to talk about?
Man, it's funny because I feel like I get asked about who I'd like to learn from or stuff like that, and I feel like at the moment I'm getting the most learning from bottoms actually. And like people that come, like I have quite a good number of people that come to do rope sessions with me like on a monthly basis, and it's so cool to watch them grow and to kind of learn about them because it's like a huge spectrum of people. And I think I'm learning a lot that way through like the constant repetition of certain ties on different bodies across a whole bunch of different experiences. And I think, my learning right now is really bottom led, which sounds, I don't know.
What's been a lesson from like maybe some of the bottoms that you've like really taken?
Well, one, this is cool. I've been working with this person for maybe half a year now. And they come and do a session once a month. And they came from a place of not having a very good kink experience. So they had like some remaining like trauma around that. And they were very nervous about like trusting people and that kind of thing. And they're also not super flexible and not like a huge masochist. And it's been really cool to like see every month like things just get harder and harder and harder for them and how much better they process it because not only have we like built our trust with each other, but like they're getting so much better at like self-regulating their own body and like communicating their needs when something comes up. And that's like, I don't know, that's cool. That's super cool to me.
Yeah, what was that rope progression like? Like what exactly was the first position or tie you did and second one, third one?
I just remember like in the beginning we like started with like a softer arms front kind of harness and like a hip harness, and they like really struggled with waist rope, like the way rope feels on their waist. Whether that was just tension or like sometimes we hold trauma like around our internal organs, and kind of letting that go took like many ties. And now just the other day we did like a upright hashira tie, which is like when you're tied upright on the post. And we got to a point where I was like, okay, this is probably kind of challenging. Sometimes people pass out here because there's like a lot of compression and breath play. But we're just going to talk through it. And they like did fine. We got there and they're like, actually, this is not even that hard. Can we make it harder? I'm like, of course.
And upright Hashira, what does that look like for like people who's not familiar or too lazy to Google it?
Yeah, it's basically a post. Like it's usually a wooden post. It comes from Japanese tying, where like in the homes they have the framing. It kind of comes from that and like being put on display. And so, yeah, you're usually tied more in an upright position or sometimes in an inverted position, but you're like tied to the post. So not only is it like the pressure of the rope, but also the pressure of like being sandwiched into this post.
And their feet's not touching the ground.
It can be like sometimes they're used in floor play, or your feet can be on the ground, or you can be suspended in that position.
And where's all that pressure in the body when they're suspended against the post in that way?
It kind of depends on how supportive the person that's tying you gives you for a tie and what position you're in. But like a traditional upright pose, which would be upright, the tension is probably a lot in the arms and in the legs. And it's like also how much you compress around the post, around the body can just like, it's kind of all over. I usually tell people it's going to be like a heavy bondage experience. Like as if you were like in a sleep sack with straps and like all this other stuff, like heavy.
Yeah.
No movement. Just there.
Yeah. How long can a person hold that position for?
It kind of depends on the person's experience level and also kind of how their circulation is. Because of course everything depends on like how quickly you're losing circulation. And also the better the tie is, the better the skill of the tie is, probably the longer you can last. Because if it's not a great tie or it's too tight, then you'll lose circulation faster. But it's so hard to say.
Yeah, it is really body to body.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode of Uncensored with MX Tomie. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're a very good sub. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon, and all the other apps that I'm on. I'll see you on the next one.